What if I told you the printing press wasn't just a machine? What if it was a weapon, one that cracked open the medieval world, destabilized kings, ignited revolutions, reshaped religions, and rewired the very way humans think? Because we often imagine the printing press as something simple, mechanical, almost quaint. A metal frame, movable type, ink on a page. But the truth is far more explosive. Before the printing press, knowledge moved at a crawl. Ideas lived and died inside monasteries. Power flowed downward, from the few who could read to the many who could not. One idea could take decades, sometimes centuries, to spread across a continent. Then suddenly, in the mid-1400s, a single machine made ideas viral. A single idea could now travel farther in 1 year than entire civilizations managed in a century. And for the first time in human history, ordinary people could challenge the stories that ruled their lives. The printing press didn't just produce books, it produced rebels. It produced nations. It produced modernity. And the most surprising truth of all? We are still living inside the aftershocks today. How one invention shattered the old world. Let's rewind to Europe before the printing press, a world where information moved slower than the seasons. 1. The slow world of handwritten truth. Monks spent lifetimes copying a single text by hand. A mistake made early in the manuscript would be copied for generations. Scriptoria were bottlenecks, gatekeepers of wisdom. Books were so rare that they were literally chained to desks. Knowledge was something sacred, mysterious, protected. The average person might go their entire life without hearing a new idea. And that was no accident. It was a world built on scarcity. Scarcity of knowledge, scarcity of literacy, scarcity of interpretation. And in a world where truth was monopolized, power was stable. Then came Johannes Gutenberg. 2. Gutenberg's genius. Precision meets disruption. Gutenberg wasn't the first to print text. Woodblock printing had existed for centuries. Korea had even developed movable metal type earlier. But Gutenberg achieved something unique. He made printing scalable. His alloys allowed durable, reusable letters. His press applied even pressure, mass-producing clean pages. His oil-based ink didn't smear. His system could print thousands of pages at a cost unthinkable before. It was like comparing a candle to a lightning bolt. Within a decade, his invention began to eat the old world alive. 3. The first shockwave. Religion breaks open. The church had dominated the story of Europe for 1,000 years, but then came 1517. When Martin Luther nailed his 95 Theses to a church door, he expected a debate. What he got was a revolution. Within 2 months, thanks to printing presses, millions had read his ideas. The church, once the unchallenged gatekeeper of truth, now faced an invisible army of printed pamphlets. And suddenly, every citizen could interpret scripture for themselves. The printing press didn't just spread Protestantism. It created the idea that ordinary people could challenge authority. This was new, dangerous, uncontrollable. 4. The second shockwave, the scientific explosion. Knowledge that once required secrecy now traveled freely. Copernicus's ideas about the universe, Vesalius's detailed anatomy, later, Newton's laws that rewrote the heavens. Before the printing press, such ideas might have died in dusty manuscripts. Instead, they spread rapidly across Europe, where others built on them, corrected them, challenged them. Science doesn't advance by isolated genius. It advances by shared ideas. And for the first time, knowledge did not reset each generation. Humans began building on a single, shared library. The printing press didn't just create more science. It created the scientific mind, a culture of collaboration, experimentation, and debate. 5. The third shockwave, nations are born. Mass literacy created something powerful. Communities built not by geography, but by stories. France became France, not because of a king, but because millions read the same language. Germany unified in part because printed German spread widely. Ideas no longer belonged to elites. They belonged to the collective imagination, and that imagination became the foundation of modern nation-states. A printed story could now define who people thought they were. 6. The fourth shockwave, revolutions. Ignite. Ideas once released are impossible to contain. Pamphlets inspired the American Revolution. Common Sense sold over 500,000 copies in a population of just 2 million. The French Revolution was fed by printed ideas about liberty, equality, and rights. The Enlightenment itself spread because printed works could travel faster than censors could stop them. The printing press didn't simply share ideas, it gave ideas the power to overthrow empires. 7. The fifth shockwave. A new human mind emerges. Here's the part we rarely talk about. The printing press didn't just change society, it changed how humans think. Before printing, the human mind was trained for oral memory, storytelling, rhythm, repetition. After printing, humans developed a new mental architecture: silent reading, abstract reasoning, linear logic, private thought, critical analysis. The printing press created a new kind of human, the self-reflective individual. People began to see themselves not just as members of a village or kingdom, but as independent thinkers with personal beliefs. This shift was so powerful that it eventually helped create individual rights, democracy, and modern law. A machine rewired human consciousness. 8. The final shockwave. The internet reveals the pattern. Every major shift since Gutenberg follows the same pattern. Technology spreads ideas, breaks old systems, builds new ones. The printing press is the ancestor of the newspaper, the school system, the scientific journal, the novel, the encyclopedia, the internet itself. We often talk about the digital revolution as something new. But the blueprint is 500 years old. And here's the irony. Today, we face the same problems the printing press created. Too much information, distrust of authority, competing truths, identity conflict, rapid social change. The printing press solved the scarcity of knowledge, but opened the floodgates of uncertainty. Which brings us to the question that defines this entire story. Did the printing press free us or fracture us? We often speak of the printing press with reverence. It democratized knowledge. It challenged tyranny. It spread literacy and science. But it also unleashed chaos, religious wars, ideological violence, polarization, propaganda, revolutions that devoured themselves. Because when people suddenly have access to new information, they also gain new anxieties. What is true? Who decides? What if the old foundations crumble? What if truth becomes a battlefield? The printing press did not simply change what people knew, it changed what people believed about knowing itself. Authority was no longer inherited, it had to be earned. Truth was no longer handed down, it had to be investigated. Meaning was no longer delivered, it had to be constructed. The printing press gave humanity incredible freedom, but also a burden, the responsibility to choose which truths to follow. And this might be the most surprising impact of all. The printing press didn't create freedom of thought, it created the struggle for it. The real revolution was inside us. So why did the printing press rewrite humanity? Not because it spread information, but because it changed the internal world, the mind, the self, the nature of belief. The printing press taught humanity a dangerous, liberating truth. Truth is not given. Truth is discovered. Truth is contested. Truth must be earned. And once you realize that, you can never return to the old world. Every debate today, political, scientific, moral, still rests on foundations Gutenberg built. Should everyone have access to information? What happens when knowledge spreads faster than wisdom? How do we navigate multiple competing truths? What is the cost of a world where ideas never die? The printing press shattered the medieval certainty that truth was singular and stable. It replaced it with a new world, a world where truth evolves, expands, and fractures. Some see this as freedom, others see it as chaos. But in the end, the printing press gave us something deeper than any single idea. It gave us the ability to question, to reflect, to argue, to grow, to search for meaning beyond what we inherited. And that search, the search for truth in a world of endless stories, is what made us modern. The printing press didn't simply change society. It changed what it means to be human. And today, as we drown in information, tempted by easy narratives or comforting illusions, perhaps we face the same choice people faced in the 1500s. Do we cling to the old certainties? Or do we learn how to think freely, in a world where truth is no longer a gift, but a responsibility? Because the real revolution Gutenberg started was not made of metal and ink. It was made inside us. If you found meaning in this story, like, share, and subscribe to Timeless Questions, where we explore the forces, ideas, and individuals who shaped humanity's path and still shape us now.